to use the state background check system, but how does that relate to the NICS system? And just for everyone here, NICS is the National Instant Criminal Background Check System that became part of a background check system from the Brady Act in 1993. And the NICS system, just for everyone's information, has a 95% false positive. So 95% of the people that get denied the ability to buy a gun, it's a false positive. So it shows you how bad this government taxpayer-funded system is. So Mr. Schuler, Mr. Smith, and also Mr. Herrera, let's go one at a time and help me understand, like, how does it work between, say, for here in Florida, the FDLE background, your state background system, how does that work with the national NICS system, and then from your state as well? Let's start with Mr. Herrera and we'll go down the line.
So I don't believe that Texas has anything like that. I think that all 4473s usually just go through the NICS system, typically. We actually don't handle 4473s for that exact reason. So we're a manufacturer. We have the ability to do background checks and to sell to the public, but literally out of fear of the ATF and audits, because that seems to be the thing that they go after the most, we weighed the risk and reward and decided that it wasn't worth it to even register to be able to do it in NICS. So that's something that we voluntarily just don't do because the ATF scrutiny is too intense.
Thank you. Mr. Schuler?
In Florida, the way I understand it is Florida opted to run their own background checks, and they run it, and I believe they run it through the same avenues that NICS is run through as far as the NCIC computers and so on. But they just render their finding to us directly, and we just don't have access to the NICS system at all.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Smith?
So I'm very active in the Florida politics, and I've done a lot of research and checked into it. I actually have contacted FDLE, and I'm in contact with a few people at FDLE that are over the background check system. So as far as we're explained, we have a computer system. We put in the information from the customer into the computer system. Then it goes directly to FDLE. FDLE then puts that information into the NICS system, where it either comes back a non-approval, an approval, or we need to do more research. An instant approval, great, we go through, no problems there. If it needs to do more research, it then comes back to the FDLE system. And FDLE has to do the research themselves since they've opted to take that on themselves. We've seen these false positives over and over. Recently, I just had a Navy pilot in my store that had purchased 2 firearms in the last 6 months. Well, he came in and purchased another firearm. This is about 3 weeks ago. He got a denial. Navy pilot, had full orders, everything in the store. So I have a contact at FDLE, luckily, now after a lot of politicking, because I think they just kind of want to keep me quiet at this point. And I reached out to him, and he said, let me check into it. I gave him all the information, the transaction number, and everything, and he asked to speak to the Navy pilot that was in the store. I put him on the phone, and 5 minutes later, came back with an approval. So what had happened is he explained to me that the pilot's information, he had the same name as a gentleman out of New York, but the birth dates were different. Well, he had put his social security number on the form, and they could not get the social security number of the gentleman out of New York that had been arrested. So since they couldn't confirm that he wasn't this person, they just denied his form. This a military Navy pilot, and they just denied his form. If I had not had the contact that I have at FDLE, then this gentleman just wouldn't have been able to buy it. He would have had to go through an appeal process that can take up to 6 months just to exercise his Second Amendment rights.
That's right, Mr. Smith, and he would have had to pay for the attorney and spend his time doing that. It's a good thing you as a business owner have so much time on your hands.
Right.